want to take a moment and talk about how important getting shapes right, getting edges right, values right when we're doing drawings. Now, for the purpose of starting a painting, it's just a sketch. It's really just a line. I'll say even an outline sketch of the objects just to make sure they're in the right locations and they're at the right angles. I don't ever, when I'm sketching things out, get into great detail unless it's maybe a portrait of a face, something like that. For the most part, the ones I'm going to be doing are figuratures. They're just people in paintings with other stuff going on, their own little stories. What's important as I sketch those in is to make sure the big shapes are captured, and that really is important whether I'm doing a finished drawing or whether I'm just doing one of these line sketches to, to paint. And I want to talk about that here because I'll miss it as I'm going through the painting. Because once we start applying paint, it can get really complicated worrying about colors, matching, and values, and temperatures, and all those things. And I have a few paintings I want to go through here after I talk about the drawing to make sure you see some of the differences in not just across paintings, but within a painting, why edges are important, why there's areas you put sharp edges and other areas you put soft edges. And we'll talk about what edges are and all that. But I wanted to start great exercise that I learned from Morgan Weisling, fantastic artist, one of my favorite artists. And he talked about his teacher in school doing what he called the yearbook test. And I've done this as I've done instruction, especially at schools, where you'll try to get a copy of their yearbook or find a picture of the class. Try to get the teacher to give you a picture of the classes. And to me, this is a good example of what I would call a yearbook test, if you will. And this is some folks at our gym. Some of the folks watching this video may be in this picture. And what's unique about something like this is to ask, let's say, who is this person back here? Now, I know it's Brian Parker. I know everybody in this picture very quickly. Doesn't take anything for me to look and go, well, that's this person, that's that person. But of all these people, he's probably about as tough as there is to get. How do I know that's Brian? Can't see his eyes, can't see his mouth, no eyelashes, none of that. None of the features and details that most of us think is what's important about Brian. But I know that's Brian. And if he was walking in a mall 100 yards away, I would know, this is Dan and this is Greg and Preston and Carissa and know all these people. And what's important when you're drawing or painting is to identify how can I capture this and it not just look like a person or look like a fella. It's Dan. How do I do that when I don't have the ability to put his eyes in the colors of his eyes and all those freckles and whatever? There's a gesture to him, as we see, that's different than Greg or Preston or any of these people. And when I say a gesture, there's a stance to it, but there's these little angles that we real quickly don't think about because we use our left brain. Betty Edwards wrote a book back in the 70s, the best book you can buy, at least conceptually, about learning to draw. And I would say paint as well. And it's called Drawing with the Right Side of Your Brain. The book itself has a lot of exercise. I mean, I've got the book. It's got exercises and things, but to me, it's more the concept that is just um, foundational for what I do. And I got so much better at this stuff, painting and drawing, because of the concept in that book, which basically says don't look at something and identify what it is if you're drawing it. Meaning that if I look at a picture and I go, oh, those are eyes. It's really quick for me to come back to my piece of paper and draw two footballs with two soccer balls in the middle of it. That to me is an eye. I need to surrender myself, be a slave, if you will, to what I'm looking at. Forget that they're eyes, forget that it's a head, forget any of that stuff. Just look, see a shape, come back to the paper, put down a shape. Look at the picture, come back, put that shape down. I look at the picture that I'm drawing as much, if not more, as the actual drawing I'm doing, right? The picture that I'm drawing from, the photo, if you will. I look at it more than I look at my drawing. And when I've done these instructions for years, at first, and I didn't do this at first, nobody does that. You look at your drawing, there's sometimes people will glance at the picture and then they'll sit here for 5 minutes and work on their drawing. And I'm like, you've got to look and try to capture these shapes. So to me, that's a great, this is a good example of that. You know, if you were, again, walking in a mall or someone you know, a loved one is 100 yards away, you know it's them. Why? That's what you have to capture in these drawings. This is a an exercise that we did in one of the classes one time. That's a really good good for anybody to go through. And I don't remember the exact times of this, but basically you look at a picture and the top little, I took a piece of paper and cut it in fourths. The top left is probably 15 seconds. One to the right of it, maybe it's 30 seconds. I don't remember the exact times. One at the bottom left's a minute, and the one on the right's like 2 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes, or something like that. So that shows you what's important because some folks, and I used to do this, in that top left picture, I would have been putting eyes and nostrils and things and not captured the shape. That big shape. Anybody would look at that top thing and probably guess, well, it's a horse. It's not a great horse, but it's a horse. 10, 15 seconds. That's what's important. That's the big stuff, right? If you don't have the shape of like somebody's head right, I don't care how good you put the eyes in, it's not going to be them. So it's capturing these big shapes is what's important. Here's a great example of this. I could have put those eyes in perfectly, but if I don't have the big shape of SpongeBob and his hat, the big shape, then none of the little details, his tie and stuff, don't matter, right? Another great example. I could take these eyes and have drawn them perfectly, but if I don't have the shape of his head right, or even the slight shape here of his head, it's not going to look like him. You know, um, the eyes, those things are important. They are important, but the big shapes and making sure those are accurate, then you can go into the detail. And as I've taught this before, and I remember back when I struggled with it, almost everybody gets straight into the details, and that should be the last thing you work on, and it's the last thing you work on or I work on in paintings. This is very sketchy stuff, right? It just shows. This was an exercise I did that I never lifted the pencil up. So the pencil touched the paper. I never lifted it back up. Just nice little exercises to do. The reason I threw this in here, this is the way you should start drawing. So don't pick, the most precious picture of your grandchild or something to start your first drawing. You're probably going to get flustered. Pick easy things, buildings, and they're not easy, but buildings and, trees and apples. And, if they're a little bit out of shape, it's okay, right? You miss somebody's face, then that's a problem. The reason I picked this one is it's dramatic. The lighting is very dramatic and it's big, obvious, simple shapes. There's some sketchiness going on that creates shadows and things, but for the most part, taking iconic shapes, images, people, characters like this, SpongeBob, and just trying to get the outline. So if you didn't put anything else in the picture, No nose, no eyes, whatever, would someone know that that's Frankenstein? That, to me, that's the important pieces of this. You can take that as far as you want. Any of these things. I mean, I had never drawn Kramer, sketched Kramer before I did this, but that doesn't mean you can't. Once you learn the concepts, it's just information. That this is a good one, just to open a magazine and just find shapes and just draw them. And the shadows and those things come later. The little details are important, but they're not as important as getting those big outline. And I don't think necessarily, if you study books on drawing, I've got dozens and dozens of books on drawing. Most of them are going to teach cylinders and squares, and that's what they think of as shapes. And they would start drawing a elephant with big ovals, and I don't think that way. That's just not the way I do it. I don't think of your arms as sausages or cylinders that are connected by a ball, or I just look at the shape of it. Easy to keep saying the word shape, but a calf has a shape that starts bigger and comes down, right? The shape of the shoe. You don't move on and put in any of these details. The number 5 doesn't matter. His name on the back of this doesn't matter if I miss stuff, if I miss his height and width and things. This is getting also this picture and some other ones here. I want you to notice the background. So when you look at some of these at first, that what's important, or what was important to me, was to get this player. He's the focus. You notice Bradley over here is a little less in focus, definitely not as bold, on purpose. If I had opened my eyes and used my left brain and I looked at this picture, I could see this person's face details, I could see this person's details, all of that. Even though the focus of the camera was on him, the other stuff was not completely out of focus. I chose to do that. I didn't need to put these people's faces in this. It honestly would have taken away from what I was trying to create with this. So there's choices to make, and usually when I paint, I really put effort into the main subject or subjects, and the rest of it I subdue. It's just my style. And I'm not saying you got to do that, but that's why I'm not a big fan of photorealism. I think it's impressive that people have that talent and that um, focus. But for me, if I look at two artists that draw or paint hyper photorealism, then I can't tell their stuff apart. And there's no, I don't know, there's nothing personal about it. You can't look at that and go, oh, that's a John Logan, or it's a Thomas Kincaid if it's photorealism, right? It looks exactly like a picture. I love the artistry part. I do feel that you should put, or I choose to put, some focus and some effort and detail into the main stuff. I don't think you should, be sloppy or loose, as a crutch. But there's areas of my paintings and drawings that I choose to be loose in, and I think I love the effect of that. And again, that was just a showing, or this kind of showed very sketchy. But if I don't get this shape right, with the mouth coming down, it's not going to look like him. I don't care how well I do any of this other stuff. That eye is not what makes him. It's it's these shapes, right? Expressions, shapes. Very little. If you look at that, very little going on right there. If I had opened my eyes and used my brain, used the left side of my brain, and looked and went, oh, that's an eye. Even if I got the direction he was looking, I'd have never caught that effect because I'm not drawing what I'm should be kind of blindly looking at. Not studying it and saying it's an eye, but just seeing some shapes and some edges. I mean, this is sharp. This is sharp. This is almost lost, right? It's so soft and loose. That's important. If I had put a hard line all the way around that, more like his, who wears eyeliner, it wouldn't be the same effect. So I just really, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but to capture some of these, this is one of my more, one of my favorite ones that I did, and it's mainly because it's so dramatic to show the difference of where to be sharp, where to have contrast, sharp edges, where was my effort, a lot of work. This is not a sketch, this is a drawing. I would call, the difference between the two, the effort you put into it. This is a lot of drawing. The rest of this, super loose on purpose. That was just my choice. And this is a good example to me of where does the hat even start and stop? Where's the background begin and the clothing end? That's important to me. There's areas that there's more of that. But if I take a quick glance, which is what some people squint, some artists squint, and I do a little bit of that. But when you look at a photo, you don't need to squint as much. Most people, if you read a book about artists squinting, which means just kind of let your eyes close down, don't wrinkle your forehead, you'll get a headache. But when they squint, it's more when they're doing landscapes, big, huge things on location, or there's a person sitting there, an actual, full size person, and you open your eyes and you can see freckles and eyelashes. So they'll let their eyes close down so they won't see that stuff, right? You want to see just the big stuff, the important things. So to me, I take little quick glances. And if I don't see an edge here, I don't put it, even though we all know there would be an edge here. Maybe a soft edge, but it would be more than that. I take a quick glance. If I don't see it, I don't put it in. That's just the way I do it. Lastly, we'll take this a little bit further and go through some of this. And I want to get a little bit more into the what I would say is temperatures, values, colors. Very high key painting, very bright, dramatic shadow underneath. Not a lot of shadow actually in it, right? It's right here underneath and some here, and that's about it. The rest of it is in light. But notice the background is super loose. I don't open my eyes, or I'm not sitting there gonna paint, 1,000 little branches and those things. It's not important. In the hubcaps, those there's some reflected light, there's some stuff going on. It's there. I wanted to make it look like a reflection, and I didn't invent that. That was in the picture, right? That was in the picture that I had. So just little details like that. This is one I did a long time ago, but it was a picture of a girl that I took at the Franklin County Fair. Backlit. Um, there were probably 150 people in this picture, and she must have been, 60, 80 feet from me. But I loved the way it was completely backlit. And she was holding her pendant, just kind of standing in line. Who knows what was going through her mind? I just love the challenge for me of painting everything that you see here is in shadow, what I would call in shadow, right? The lights here all the way around, and this is all ambient light, it's reflected light. The key is even this earring has to be lighter in value, cannot be as bright as things that are in light. Because if I had put a real bright highlight here, if this was as bright as that, it wouldn't read right. It wouldn't make sense. So I mean, most of the stuff that I paint or I like to paint has I don't mean super dramatic light, but it has a light effect that I like to try to capture. This is more of an example of where to choose to put effort or detail or information. He obviously needs to be the most important thing, so it's sharper edges, more focus. Even these guys are more subdued than they were in the photo. There's no faces in the crowd. I didn't need to. Your brain just knows what's there, right? The other key thing to say here that's very rare for me is this is one of the few times that color is more important to me than temperature, getting the temperature right or the value right. This is UK blue, and you got to nail it or it ain't gonna look like UK blue. This is a good example of edges. Sharp edge right here. sharp edge, sharp edge here. The rest of it's just soft edges. Just you don't even see where the cat ends or begins. And to me, that's this calico cat used to be our cat. Um, that's what I wanted to capture. This is a completely different painting. This was a commission I did a couple years ago, a year and a half ago. That is important just to see shapes. Shapes, there, I mean, every bit of this outline, all the way around here has to be right. I mean, these weren't just two dogs. These are, you know, this couple's, this their kids, right? This is their family. They know exactly what these dogs look like. I'm just going by one picture. So I've got to make sure that I mean, it's not about fur, right? There's not even fur. I never pulled a one hair brush out. and, even the little bit of whiskers that are there, that's not what this is about. It's painting information. These are just a few strokes, really just a couple of values that make that ear, and that's what's important. If I mentally, there's 10,000 hairs on that ear, I'm not going to sit there and paint them, right? That's not what's important. This one I have mainly just to talk about how I even subdued the blue. So I went to Lexington. This lady wanted me to paint her dog years ago. We went to a park and I took all these photos, and this is the one she loved. And the temperature, because the light was so warm, the sunlight directly on us, the shadows are blue. And if you looked at the photo of this dog, it's more blue, vivid than what I put here. And it's still, now that I pointed out, you would probably say, well, it's too blue. And it's not as blue as the dog was, even down in here. But that's what I mean by temperature, color temperature. I could have made that. It could be more purple, it could be more green, it wouldn't matter. It would work if it's cooler than the light, right? That's what's important. This reflected shadow or reflected light here, all this underneath here is cooler than what's here, the temperature. And temperature is relative. Again, blue is most would consider the coldest. If you're going to dub a temperature on a color, blue's the coldest, orange would be the warmest. So even red or yellow, which are warm, you would think are warm colors, can look cooler beside orange. So it's relative to what it's around. Another example just of edges to me is you can't see really where the vase ends and begins. If I had opened my eyes and looked and said, oh, that's a vase, I know what a vase looks like. It's got a hard edge here and a hard edge here, and it's got a hard edge around the bottom. I'd have never, I won't get the effect I'm looking at. If I looked and went, oh, I know what this stuff is. They're leaves and twigs, and I sat and just mindlessly did them, it would be too detailed. That's not what this painting was about. It was more about the sunflower. So the only reason I brought this one up, which was a commission a long time ago, is the background. I mean, now that you look at the background, I'm like, what even is that? If you look up in the background, that's just squiggles, but your brain figures it out, right? You knew what was back there. You don't need to put it, and you don't want to put it, because if I had put very detailed tree bark and individual leaves and stuff, the effect of distance and the focus of the motorcycle wouldn't have happened. Another little 8x10 I did a long time ago that just shows edges and light, to me is more what it shows. Even in the background, I mean, this here is a couple strokes, maybe 3 strokes of a brush. And if I had painted what I was looking at with my eyes wide open, and I would, I'd have put a little vase here or whatever this is, and I'd have had a hard edge around it. You don't want to do that. I mean, what's the purpose? What's the story here? It's the effect of light. Um, so anyway, little little talk, uh, always longer than I thought it might be, but I think that's very important. That, in a nutshell, is going to be, what I do through all these paintings. It's what I do when I draw. It's what I do when I paint. Is think through this stuff and kind of let myself be a slave to what I'm looking at. But I'm always thinking about five things. I'm thinking about the shapes. I'm thinking about values. I'm thinking about edges. Those three apply to paintings or drawings. After that, if I'm painting, I also think about temperatures, I think about color. So and to me, this sounds weird, but that's a left brain logical thing. It's a checklist. I try to mindlessly draw or paint what I'm looking at. And when it's not working out, which happens, it's not like I nail this stuff on the first try. If I put something in and it's not right, I'll oftentimes turn my painting or my drawing upside down, and I'll turn the picture I'm looking at upside down. So I don't think that it's a person or a dog or whatever. I'm just trying to see shapes. And I'll ask myself, is the shape right? Is the length of that thing right? Is it at the right angle? And if that's true, if I did get the shape right, then I say, is the value right? If I'm painting or doing shading with a pencil, is it too dark? Is it too light? And if I get that right, if I say, nope, I got it right, then I say, are the edges right? Is it too sharp? Does it need to be softer? Do I need to blur it a little bit? And if that's right and I'm doing a painting, I always ask, is the temperature right? Is it too warm? Do I need to cool it off a little bit? And then at the end, is it the color? To me, the color is least important. The color is important, don't get me wrong. Most people put way too much emphasis on color. So, yeah, for what that's worth, I'm going to quit blabbling, but I did want to kind of put this into one video. And I'm sure I will spatter a lot of this out throughout these paintings, but I wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. So there you go. And we'll get going on paintings soon.